Before you even think about skipping this, pause for a second and listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you can completely change the way a woman experiences you, not someday, not in theory, but starting tonight. Most men never hear this truth. They spend their entire lives speaking to women in ways that quietly reduce attraction without ever realizing it. They say the right things, follow the advice they've been told, and still end up overlooked, misunderstood, or forgettable. But you're here, and that already puts you in a different category. If you stay with me until the end of this video, I'm going to give you something practical, something you can actually use the next time you speak to her. Not a line, not a trick, something that stays with her, something she replays in her mind long after the conversation ends. Most men believe they're doing the right thing when they compliment a woman. They think attraction grows when they express admiration, when they point out what they like, when they reassure her with praise. And on the surface, that sounds logical. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most compliments don't create attraction. They dissolve it. You're beautiful. Nice hair. Pretty eyes. These words don't offend a woman, but they don't move her either. They pass through her mind without leaving a trace because she's heard them hundreds of times before, from strangers, from coworkers, from men who never stood out. The problem isn't that compliments are weak. The problem is that most compliments are predictable. When something is predictable, the brain doesn't hold on to it. There's no emotional friction, no curiosity, no reason to replay it later. It evaporates the moment it's said. What most men don't realize is this: attraction isn't built in the moment a woman hears your words. It's built in the moments after, when she's alone, when her mind wanders, when she unconsciously revisits how someone made her feel. Generic praise doesn't survive that process. It creates no memory, no emotional imprint, no reason for her to associate a feeling with you. And this is why so many men feel confused. They think they're showing interest, but what they're really doing is blending into the background. One of the biggest misunderstandings between men and women isn't intention, it's perception. Men often communicate to exchange information. Women, on the other hand, experience communication emotionally first, logically second. This doesn't make them complicated. It makes them perceptive. When a woman hears something meaningful, her mind doesn't just register the words and move on. It connects them to context, tone, timing, and the emotional state she was in when she heard them. This is why certain moments stay with her, while others disappear completely. Attraction begins in this emotional processing. A woman's mind is constantly asking subtle questions. How did this make me feel? Why did it stand out? What did he notice about me? This is also why being seen feels so different from being evaluated. When a man sounds like he's inspecting her, her looks, her surface traits, her emotional defenses stay intact. But when he notices something beneath the surface, something she didn't expect him to notice, her attention shifts inward. That inward shift is important because attraction doesn't grow outward through approval. It grows inward through emotional recognition. This is the reason women remember conversations more than compliments, tone more than volume, and presence more than performance. The words themselves matter, but only when they carry an emotional signal her mind wants to explore further. And once you understand this, the way you speak begins to change naturally. Before you learn what to say, you need to understand why certain words work while others fall flat. Attraction isn't created by phrases, it's created by emotional signals. Most men focus on surface praise because it feels safe. Complimenting appearance is easy, socially accepted, and requires very little awareness. But surface praise speaks to what a woman already knows the world sees. Emotional compliments speak to something different. They reflect observation, not evaluation. They communicate awareness, not approval. And most importantly, they reveal how you experience her, not what you want from her. This is where many men go wrong. They treat compliments like tools, something to deploy in order to get a reaction. Women sense this immediately. The moment a compliment feels performative, its impact disappears. An emotional compliment works because it isn't trying to take anything. It simply reveals a truth. Tone matters more than wording. Presence matters more than cleverness. And silence after a meaningful statement often carries more weight than anything you could add afterward. Once you shift from praising what's obvious to acknowledging what's felt, the dynamic changes. You stop sounding like every other man, and you begin speaking in a way that naturally holds attention. And that's the foundation for what comes next. The first compliment works because it speaks directly to a woman's sense of identity, not her appearance. The compliment is simple. I really appreciate the way your mind works. When said calmly and sincerely, this does something powerful. It interrupts her internal flow. Not because it's dramatic, but because it's unexpected. Most men compliment what they can immediately see: her looks, her smile, the way she presents herself. But her mind, her perspective, her way of thinking is something she's been shaping her entire life. It's personal. It's protected. That's why this lands differently. You're not saying she's intelligent in a generic way. You're not labeling her. You're acknowledging how she processes the world. That feels intimate without being intrusive. To her, this doesn't sound like praise. It sounds like recognition. When a woman hears this, she naturally begins to reflect. She replays things she said, the way she explained something, a moment where she shared an opinion or reacted thoughtfully. Her attention turns inward, and curiosity begins to form. What exactly did he notice? That question matters, because curiosity is the gateway to attraction. This compliment also communicates something about you. It shows patience, presence, awareness. It signals that you listen not to respond, but to understand. And women respond deeply to that kind of attention. When you acknowledge her mind, you're telling her that you value more than what's visible. You're speaking to the part of her that wants to be understood, not admired. And that's why this compliment doesn't fade. It stays with her quietly, long after the conversation ends. When you acknowledge the way a woman's mind works, you don't just give her a compliment, you give her something to process. Her attention doesn't stay on your words, it turns inward. She begins replaying moments from the conversation, searching for the detail that stood out to you. A comment she made, a question she asked, a reaction she didn't think much of at the time. This reflection is important because attraction grows in these quiet mental spaces, not in the loud moments of interaction. When her mind is engaged, imagination follows. She starts wondering what else you noticed, how closely you were paying attention, whether you see things in her that others overlook. And without effort, you become associated with that feeling of being understood. This is what creates emotional replay. It's not about intensity, it's about resonance. A compliment that invites reflection stays alive. It becomes part of her internal dialogue, and every time she revisits it, the emotional connection strengthens slightly. That's why this approach feels effortless when done correctly. You're not trying to impress her or win her approval. You're simply reflecting an observation that mattered to you. And that subtle honesty is what makes the impact last. The second compliment works on a deeper, more subtle level because it speaks to something a woman rarely hears acknowledged. The compliment is, there's something about your energy that stays with me. This isn't about appearance. It isn't even about personality. It's about presence. A woman's energy is the way she affects a space without trying, the tone she brings into a room, the emotional impression she leaves behind when she's no longer there. It's effortless and largely unconscious, which is why it feels deeply personal. When you say this, you're telling her that she has an impact on you that isn't forced, rehearsed, or surface level. And that matters more than most men realize. To her, this doesn't sound like flattery. It sounds like significance. She begins to wonder what part of her stayed with you. Her voice, her calm, her humor, a moment where she was simply being herself. That uncertainty creates curiosity. And curiosity, when left open-ended, naturally leads to emotional engagement. You're not explaining, you're not clarifying, you're allowing her imagination to fill in the space. This compliment also communicates emotional maturity. It shows that you're aware of how people affect you and comfortable expressing that awareness without needing anything in return. That combination, awareness without pressure, is what makes this compliment quietly powerful. It doesn't rush her. It doesn't demand a response. It simply lingers. There's a critical difference between fascination and attachment. Attachment looks for reassurance. Fascination invites exploration. When you tell a woman that her energy stays with you, you aren't asking her to give you anything. You're not seeking validation, comfort, or confirmation. You're simply sharing an experience. That's why it feels light, not heavy. Because there's no emotional demand attached to the compliment, her mind remains open. She doesn't feel pressure to respond a certain way or match your feeling. Instead, she becomes curious. What did he feel? Why did it affect him? What part of me created that impression? Those unanswered questions keep the interaction alive internally. Fascination grows in silence, in reflection, in the moments where nothing is being pushed, and when a woman's curiosity is engaged, attraction deepens naturally, without effort. This is also why restraint matters. You don't follow this compliment with explanation or justification. You allow space. And in that space, her imagination does the work for you. The third compliment reaches a place most men never speak to, not because it's risky, but because it requires emotional confidence. The compliment is, I feel more at ease when I talk to you. This isn't dramatic. It isn't intense, but it's deeply meaningful. When you say this, you're telling her that her presence has a calming effect on you, that she brings a sense of ease, not pressure, and that touches something important inside her. Women don't just want to feel exciting, they want to feel grounding. Calm communicates trust. It signals that you're comfortable in yourself and aware of your emotional state. There's no desperation in it, no need to impress, just honesty. For many women, this kind of recognition feels rare. It suggests that she isn't just someone you enjoy being around, but someone you feel safe opening up with. That safety is powerful. It invites closeness without force. It allows connection to grow at a natural pace, and it subtly tells her that you value emotional presence as much as attraction. When delivered with steady tone and relaxed body language, this compliment doesn't weaken your presence, it strengthens it, because emotional calm isn't fragility, it's stability, and stability is something women instinctively trust. Excitement is easy to create, calm is not. Excitement comes from novelty, intensity, and unpredictability. It sparks quickly, but it fades just as fast. Calm, on the other hand, builds slowly and stays. When a woman feels calm around a man, it means her nervous system relaxes. She doesn't feel the need to perform, impress, or stay guarded, and that relaxed state is where genuine connection forms. Calm signals emotional security. It tells her that you're not reactive, not fragile, and not seeking validation. You're present, centered, and comfortable with silence. That steadiness allows her to feel safe expressing herself fully. This is why calm often leads to deeper attraction than excitement ever could. Excitement grabs attention. Calm holds it. When a woman associates you with ease and emotional balance, she doesn't just enjoy your company, she trusts it. And trust is the foundation that allows attraction to grow into something meaningful. Each of these compliments works on its own, but together they create something far more powerful. They speak to three different emotional layers a woman cares deeply about. The first acknowledges her mind, the part of her identity shaped by thought, perspective, and self-awareness. This tells her you value how she sees the world, not just how she looks in it. The second recognizes her energy, the emotional impression she leaves behind without effort. This speaks to her presence, her influence, and the subtle way she affects others. The third reflects her impact, the sense of calm and emotional safety she brings. This tells her she matters beyond attraction, that she has a stabilizing influence. Together, these three layers create emotional significance. She doesn't feel evaluated, she feels understood. This is important because attraction deepens when a woman feels emotionally recognized as a whole person, not reduced to a single trait. You're not overwhelming her with praise. You're quietly observing and reflecting, and that balance, attention without pressure, is what allows connection to form naturally. It gives her space to feel, reflect, and imagine without being pushed in any direction. That's when attraction becomes effortless. The power of these compliments doesn't come from the words alone. It comes from how and when they're delivered. Timing matters. These words should never be rushed or dropped into conversation randomly. They land best in moments of calm connection, after shared laughter, during a thoughtful exchange, or when the conversation naturally slows. Tone matters even more. Speak slowly. Keep your voice relaxed and steady. You're not trying to impress or provoke a reaction. You're simply expressing something you've noticed and felt. Then pause. Silence after a meaningful compliment allows it to settle. Many men ruin the moment by explaining, justifying, or filling the space with nervous talk. Don't do that. Presence matters. Maintain soft eye contact, not intense staring. Let your body language remain open and grounded. Your energy should match the calm confidence behind the words. When your delivery is centered and unforced, the compliment feels honest. And honesty is what allows her intuition to relax and receive it without resistance.